Safety first. Anthony's little workout space. So if we look around us, we're now in mid-May. We're still had cold nights, so it's going to get hot here for us. It's going to get up to 75. This morning it was 46 degrees. So, I've already taken off 2 layers of jacket because it was cold this morning when we got started. But at this time of year, we're in the process of finishing up the rains. We should get no more rains anymore till fall. And so we're in the process of mowing down all the grasses that we have here on the property. And what we do is that we mow this down and then we pile it up and we make compost with it. We let it dry and then we just throw it in big piles and then mix it every once in a while. We probably could have a real formal process for doing that, but we don't. We just throw it in there and we mix it together and then eventually it becomes compost and we could use it. We could accelerate that process. The other thing we're trying new this year at Las Brisas is that we put up our net to keep the deer out early. Usually we won't put this on until probably July or so to begin to protect the grapes once they start verizon, which means that they start turning color. But we put them up early to protect all the young shoots from the deer, because last year we figured that we lost 200 pounds of grapes to deer last year. They came in the vineyard one night and ate a whole bunch of Pinot grapes. So we put it up early, and so we anticipate 200 to 300 pounds more of grapes this year. We'll probably produce here on the property maybe 45 cases of wine of just this and another small little patch of grapes that we have over there. So we're in the process of mowing. So tomorrow morning when it's cold, I will get out here and I'll mow this down, and then we'll harvest that and we'll make huge piles of it. Let me show you a pile. So we haven't collected this stuff yet, obviously. And we mow this down for fire hazard and just make it easy to walk through. So over here, you can see in the distance, you can see last year's pile of stuff. We just throw everything in there. People say, hey, why are you throwing in the right concentration of carbons and nitrogens? The browns and the greens. Well, we don't worry about it so much. We just throw it in there because we know it's going to eventually become compost. And I'll come here with the tractor now once we get everything mowed, and I'll start flipping this over more regularly as we're transitioning out of the wet season, because now I can get the tractor into here. And then we get any of our new grass clippings that we have. There's some on the top there. We'll eventually end up with this, which is soil with compost in it. And we put this into our garden, and it has a lot of nutrients. And of course, I'd like to have a more formal process for doing this. But right now, this is the process that we're using. I'm hoping to dedicate much more time to the garden and to the whole vineyard process. But we found this works. And most likely, I'll be able to turn that pile that's a year old over and get it moving forward more quickly. But at Las Brisas, this is what we've been able to do. Because, this is our hobby and we've all had jobs doing something else. But now we'll be able to dedicate some more time to that. But this is typically how big the grass grows every year. Our friend, the ragweed. And here's our little tractor. We'll talk about the tractor some other day. When I bought the tractor, we bought this box scraper. I wouldn't do that again. That was a waste of money. And here's our garden. We just finished getting it ready, our rototilling and disking ready for the work. And so we have up on top, if you would have seen this a couple of weeks ago, it would be completely covered with weeds, just like that over there. But we mowed it down, then mowed it down again, then again very light rototilling to just incorporate that organic matter in the soil. We always buy compost from our friends, and so we're getting ready to do our planting now. So we'll be putting peppers over there, and we'll be putting tomatoes over here. Now, my goal for the next couple years is to actually reduce the amount of rototilling and disking that we do, and just keep the soil as pristine and untouched as possible. So we're starting a new process that we've had some success with that I'll show you, where we put down cardboard, or we put down special paper they sell for gardens for cardboard, or what you get from the Home Depot for planting, some paper that you get for planting. Here we're using paper and cardboard. But the reason why we do all that is because of this. So these are garlic. They were planted in November, in late October and November. And what we did was that we in this particular case, to start off the row, we bought some soil, and we put soil on top of cardboard, on top of actual cardboard boxes, and the worms are burrowing right through it. But if we would not have put the cardboard down here, what we would have found, this would look just like those grasses and stuff that we saw earlier. It would just be a bunch of weeds. So what we've been able to do is that by putting the cardboard down, we can now go through and do, the weeding doesn't completely disappear, but we can do some simple weeding, going around, pulling off these things like this, and it's much easier to keep control of the weeds. And so far, we've been able to do that pretty successful. So I'm carefully watching these garlic to see how they're bulbing. Are they able to penetrate through that cardboard? Now the earthworms are plowing through that cardboard. So this is underneath these garlic are some fantastic looking soil, right? And we're going to hopefully eventually convert this whole garden area to a system like this. And once we get the weeds sufficiently under control, we probably will stop putting down cardboard. We won't need to do it. Maybe we'll need to do it once, maybe a couple of times. We do have a terrible weed that I'll show you that grows in here, and here's some of it. This stuff is the worst. It's a morning glory, and look at that root. That root is just so long, and it just gets everywhere. So if we were to dig in the soil, we would find it. And I'm not going to use Roundup. I'm not going to use any compound like that to control it. So I'm very careful trying to get rid of it. Once I take it out of the ground, it'll dry up and be fine. So I'm coming in here, pulling these out, trying to get as much of the root every time I can out, hopefully stop it. You can see that these are really small compared to that, because I've gone through here and I've pulled out the root already many times, and eventually it'll stop, but it makes life so much easier. So here's a garlic. Here's some of that morning glory starting to come on up, a wild morning glory. We call it morning gloria around here, and we hate it. Two weeds that we really don't like. You can see the bulb is starting to form. So these won't be ready for another month or so. We'll keep them covered up. Well, we'll see probably in June or so, we'll see that this leaf, maybe the leaves all the way up to about here will turn brown, and that'll be the time that we can harvest. And then each one of these will form a cover on that garlic. You can see baby earthworms in here. So we're very happy about this whole process so far. It's working really good. And this time of year, it's, weed management. So one of the things that we do here at Las Brisas is that we're always trying to learn what works and what doesn't work, and how to make things simpler and eventually become less expensive and easier to manage. And that's what this is about. So this system, and a lot of people, are worried about the. They say that there's toxins in the cardboard and things like that. I don't know anything for sure, but I'll tell you one thing: earthworms love it, and they just reproduce and reproduce. They have very short lifespans. If there were toxins in there, we would see that kind of impact. But that soil that I showed you with all those earthworms in it, that's what these are growing in, and that's what we're after.